Okay, well, we just want to welcome everyone to today's Flexi webinar. We'll be talking about working with presets in Flexi. And just want to wish everyone a happy Valentine's Day. We're touched that you chose to spend the day with us. We're going to start out the presentation with Mark Rugen. He has almost 25 years of experience in the sign industry, and he's owned several sign shops, and he's very knowledgeable. He tours the country every year teaching classes and live presentations on how you can be more efficient, more effective using Flexi software. After the presentation, we're going to have a Q&A session. So if you do have any questions during the presentation, just go ahead and type them into the chat window there. And after the presentation, Mark will be able to take some of those, field those questions, and help you, whether it's regarding the working with presets in Flexi or if you just have general Flexi questions. So either way, just feel free to go ahead and type those into the chat window there. And with that, I'll turn the time over to Mark.
Great. Thank you, Stuart, and welcome everyone. Mark Rugen here. Hope to see you in one of my classes. Hello, Ray and Alberto, Julian, Leanne, Thomas. Good morning to all of you. You've typed into the chat window, as Stuart mentioned there, so we appreciate that. Folks, some of you are probably from far away, so I'm in Alabama. Type in and let me know where you're from, and we'll recognize you a couple of times here. Make sure you can hear me. Good deal, good deal. All right, cool. All right, so let's talk about our working with presets. And what is a preset to begin with? A preset in Flexi is the ability to set Flexi up so that when you send a file to Production Manager through Flexi, you can actually choose what's called a preset. And the preset will contain all of the color settings, all of the sizes, labels, whatever it is that you've set up. We'll show you how to set up that preset and why they're so useful. It's really a good thing because what can happen is, you want to be able to repeat the job the very next time you do the job. You spend all this time setting it up and getting a good print, and then, a week later, let's say you need to reprint that job and you just don't remember all of the settings. Well, a preset can help with that. Another reason for using a preset would be to set up something. Let's say you're doing vehicle wraps, and you've got, quite a few to do, and you're going to do some of the printing today, some tomorrow, whatever. You want to be able to set up a preset so that when you repeat the job, you're getting the same color settings and the same quality prints that you got from the first print. So it's important to be able to repeat what you've done before. And then perhaps another reason for using it is you can simply set up presets for your different medias. If you're using Canvas and some sort of textile and perhaps vinyls and window perfs and all that sort of thing, as you go through and get more experience with Flexi, you're going to discover the right settings for those materials. Well, set up a preset for each one of those materials so that when you do that job, you simply, click on the preset and everything is done. It'll save you time as well as give you good repeatability. So let's see how we actually set up a preset in Flexi. So I've got a nice little poster here appropriate for the day. We've got maybe an image here that we're going to create a banner from or something like that. So this particular image is about, is about 12 by 6 3/4 of an inch, but we're going to make a banner out of it, okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to send it over to my rip and print. Even if I don't resize it here, I'm doing that on purpose. I'm not resizing it here for a reason. So I'm going to go back here to my rip and print, and you can see it's a small size there. We could do it sideways just to kind of, let's just do it this way just to make it easier to see. And we're going to make it bigger, right? So we're going to say, let's make this thing 36 inches, something like that. So that's going to be our banner right there, okay? And we're going to set up some of these sizes here. Maybe we're going to do some sort of choose a certain kind of material to print on. Whatever that may happen to be. I'm just going to choose this one for now just to show you this. So where are all my presets and sort of things? Well, the first place you can access presets is right here. You can see where it says preset under color correction. That's the third tab in the rip and print menu. And if you have presets set here, you would actually be able to access them. Like, for instance, I have none, which means there's no preset chosen. I have ICC profiles. I was making profiles a week ago for certain machines, so I have that set up properly. And then there's an add button right here where you can add presets in. So what that add button does, it allows you to share your presets with other users in your office or with other people who have Flexi, right? So if I wanted to create a preset, probably the best way I found is put your job on hold over here. So I'm going to put my job on hold. I'm going to send that job over to my production manager, okay? So I'm hitting send, and it's, in this case, I'm sending it to what I think is a 1638 Luto. It could be any printer, doesn't matter. And those of you using HPs and so forth, this is really good as well because you know, you have a lot of settings that you're controlling, heat settings and vacuums and all that sort of thing. So you'll want to make some presets for your HPs for sure. But let's go over to Production Manager because that's where you can really see the value here. Okay, so there's my job sitting in Production Manager right now. So what I'm going to do is it's in the whole queue right here. I'm just going to double click on the job name, and that's going to bring up another menu. And this is the job properties menu right here. And let me shrink it so you can see it completely on your screen there. There you go. So that's the job properties there. So again, I could have set the size here as well. Okay, so I did it in the other menu. That's fine. But I'm gonna print this 36 inches. I'm going to add over here on the top, I've got this little finishing tool here, you know, and I'm going to turn on some grommets, and I'm going to, you know, make a few grommet changes like this. Maybe this is, you know, a fairly small piece, so I'm not going to put too many grommets in it. Put the sizes in there. Maybe I'm going to do a fold line. Maybe I'm going to do a bleed around the edge there, and I'll just mirror that. So what I'm doing here is I'm trying to set this up so that I'm making a nice banner where I'm going to have the fold and there's the lines on there and there's my grommet holes and so forth. And I'm also going to go to my color management here, and perhaps I'm printing on a certain kind of material. Let's say that this is going to be on some sort of banner material. You can see all the profiles that are provided by the folks at Flexi here. Just pick the profile that you're going to be printing on, right? Whether that's a banner material or so forth. Let's just say we're going to use this one here. All right, so I'm going to print on that material. So again, you go through the tabs here. This is the size of the job. This is the color management settings, right? Just like we normally do, printer settings. So if I click on printer settings, all these folks will have different printer settings. So you can choose what you need. And these are things like your vacuums, your heat settings, and so forth. For, again, addressing some of the users out there with UV or perhaps an HP or something like that, where you have a lot of settings. Set it all up, you know, in the way that you know that you've experienced as best. And in any case, you can go through all of these, and just like I did here, I set up my grommets and so forth. Okay, when I have all that set up, and I print, say, one copy of this thing, and it comes out exactly the way I want it, I don't want to have to remember all those settings again. So what I'm going to do in this menu here is I'm going to go up to the top here where it says Presets, and right over on the right-hand side, I'm going to say Save That, and I can turn on, I can say, okay, save the layout. That's the size of the job and so forth. Save the color management settings. I can turn on all of these if I want to. Save the finishing tab. That's where I have the grommets and so forth. So what I'm actually telling Flexi to do is any of these tabs, whatever the values I had in these tabs, I want you to save that in what we call a preset. So I'm going to click OK, and then I'm going to name this preset. Now I'm just going to name this one a simple name. I'm going to call it banner. And I could call it 3-foot banner. I could call it 6-foot banner, you know, whatever sizes you'd set. I could call this canvas. I could call this, wall graphic, vehicle wrap settings. You know, name it something that you're going to remember, okay? So I'm going to click OK on that. And generally speaking, at this point, I would send the job. Okay, that's basically what I would do. Now I'm going to cancel that job. All right, I'm going to go ahead and cancel that job. All right, let's delete it out of there. And I'm going to go back to my Flexi here. Now, I want you to see in Flexi, in Design Central, it says that this particular graphic is 12 by 6 3/4. Remember, we wanted to make a banner, a 3-foot banner out of it, add grommets, printed on that special banner material, and so forth. So let's just say we printed this as a sample in our shop, and now we're going to start selling these, and the customer's coming in and they want to buy these things. So what are all my color settings that are right? Well, what I can do now is when I get ready to send it to my rip and print capability here, I go to my third tab, okay, and I have presets, and guess what I have in here? I have one called Banner. So as soon as I click on that, what it does is it automatically assigns the correct settings over here, you know, the basic glossy banner material and so forth. It's chosen the right output profile. It's chosen all those settings. It's going to resize the job and so forth, you know. If I click Send, all right, and then we go back to our production manager over here, and I have my layout. Let me double click on that. Okay. Again, what I want to do here is I want to make sure that I'm using my banner settings, right? I have my banner presets here, and I'm going to say, you know, use that as my preset. That's what I want to do. And guess what it did? It automatically assigned everything to this graphic. It resized it to the 3-foot like we asked it to do. It added the grommet holes. It added the fold lines. It chose the correct color management setting. So in other words, I saved a lot of time here. I can now repeat this job anytime in the future by using this banner preset, and that's going to allow me to get better printing. Because, again, you know, when you struggle with color management and you're trying to get everything right, and then you finally do get it right, you don't want to have to remember all those settings over and over and over again. So what presets for is to, again, you can just repeat your job anytime you want to. And I would recommend that you come in here, you know, run a few test jobs, you know, do some things like you can set this up for the banner like I did, but choose your medias, you know, going through your medias. If you're printing on canvas and you've got some settings that work really well set that up for the canvas and really get a nice, you know, good print, and then save that as a preset. And remember, when you save it as a preset, make sure I would choose all the tabs here, frankly, and then I would name it very carefully. Make sure that you know what the name is so that the next time you need to use the preset, it's available to you immediately. So presets, very, very important capability in Flexi. It's a pretty easy function. We do a very, very good job on our training DVD. If you click on that, not click on it, but if you write down that little URL down there, you'll be able to go to that site and get that DVD and learn about this and many other topics. It'll also take you to the SAI site where you can see where all of our other training places are going to be. We have one coming up in Atlanta, another one in Baltimore, Chicago, lots of different places. We're going all over the U.S. again this year, so we hope to see you in a class. I hope that this is going to help you with your Flexi and give you a really good capability of doing you know, more jobs more quickly. So that's the preset example, and we hope that you enjoyed it. Stuart, we can take some questions if you'd like.
Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and open it up for our Q&A session. If you have any questions specifically about the presets with Flexi, go ahead and type those in. And if you have any other questions, any other features of Flexi, or if you'd like to just see Mark go over something as an example, go ahead and type those in, and Mark will be able to get those answered for you. Okay, so Raphael asks, how do you delete a preset that you don't need anymore?
Okay. If you go back into your production manager here, and let's go back into our preset here. If you select, let's say I have the banner preset that I have right here, there's actually a delete button right at the top that allows you to change that. You can also rename the preset. So if you have a preset that, like I just named this banner, Maybe what I want to do is rename it to 3-foot banner. Or if I don't need this preset anymore, I would just click on the delete button and delete it.
Okay. And then Liza had another question about that. Let's say your customer wants the same job but on a different size. Can you override just the size on your preset?
Absolutely. Once you have the preset entered, and I have this one at 3 feet, if I need to make a quick adjustment, make it 48 inches instead, you can always do that. This is just a way of getting you to a start point very, very quickly. So, yes, you can make changes even though you've loaded a preset.
Okay, excellent. Okay, and then Carl asked, can we use the same preset for 2 different printers?
You can use the same preset. Now, if it's 2 different printers of the same type, naturally it would work perfectly. If you have, say, one model that's, I'm going to use as an example a Muto, and then another one that's maybe a Roland or something like that, the preset would not apply because the preset includes the profiles and so forth. But when you're making your preset, if you take a look here, when I click on the Save As, in that case, what I would do is maybe not save the Color Management tab. And some of these others. You could save the Layout tab, you could save the Workflow tab, and turn off maybe the printer options because there are different kinds of printers. Turn off anything that has to do with color specifically for those 2 different kinds of printers, but you can still save the layout, the finishing, the tiling, all of that, and you could save that as just a way to transfer the sizes and the layouts from printer to printer. But you wouldn't want to save the color management because it probably would not correspond to the 2 printers might be different. But they're the same models, no problem. But otherwise, you just select the layouts that you want.
Okay, but if they were the same printer, Kevin says we have dual HP 360, so the presets would be able to be used for both of them, correct?
Absolutely, yes. Absolutely, yes. And you just want to make sure that both of those have the same profiles on it, and the answer is yes, you'd be able to do that. That's actually a very good application because that way you're sure that both of those printers are using the same settings. So if you're doing a lot of posters or whatever and you want the colors to be the same on both printers, then this would assure that they're both set up exactly the same way.
Okay, and Lizette wants to know, what if you have, say, an older Muto and a newer one? Would you be able to use the same preset?
Well, I guess the answer is the same as 2 different printers. If it's still in the same model, the answer would be yes. But if you're going from, let's say, an older model, I'm going to say like a 1204, which is a very old Muto model, and then you're going to also use a 1638, you would probably see some differences because, again, the profiles are very specific to the model printer you're using. So again, you could certainly choose the layouts, the sizes, and so forth, but you may not. You'll probably have to alter the profile on each one of those.
Okay. So going back to setting up the preset, Ellen had a question. When we were changing the size from a 3-foot banner to a 4-foot banner, can you make the changes and resave or save it as a new size?
You can. You can click Save As, and what you can do there is click OK. And if you name it the same way, it'll ask you if you want to override it. Or that's another good approach to this. If you want to say something that says 3-foot banner, 5-foot banner, 6-foot banner, with the same settings except the size is different, you could create, your different size banners that you're outputting as well and save them as different presets. Absolutely. Same color settings, just different sizes.
You don't have to change it every time. You can just have one for each size. Perfect.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, and then Santana was wondering, how do you share a preset? Is that possible?
Yes, it is possible. You can save these, as I said. These are all presets that are saved here, right? And then in Production Manager, in the File menu here, you can actually export your presets. These are the presets for your particular machine, okay? and then you can also import them as well, import your presets here as well. So that's a way to share them if you wish.
Excellent. Okay, looks like we have a question we're moving outside of the presets. But Jasmine said, what's the best way to bring a piece of online clip art into Flexi?
Okay. Well, Flexi, when you're working with art that's coming from a customer or from, as we say, as I like to say in my classes, if you're borrowing it from Google, most of those are going to be pretty common formats, which is, JPEGs or TIFFs or EPS, PDF, that sort of thing. So the way you find out if it's compatible, basically, is just go to File and Import, or Open, either way. And what's going to happen is you're going to see this list down here which says File Type, and that's the list of all the kinds of file types that are compatible with Flexi. So there's several ways you can open that then in Flexi. One is just to click the Open button. One is to do the Import here. You can even, once you have it, say, on your desktop or something like that, you can drag and drop it into Flexi, and if it's compatible, it will open immediately. In terms of best file type, if that's what you're referring to, PDF, EPS, JPEG, very, very common formats and very, very compatible with Flexi. There's some advantages to EPS and PDF from the standpoint that they can contain both vector and bitmap images, whereas JPEG is just a bitmap image. But no specific file type, I would say, is best, so to speak. But the more common ones would be the PDF, EPS, and probably JPEG files. Those are very, very common.
Okay. Looks like we have a question here from Hugh. He says, when I text inside a circle, the letters don't show, but I get lines where the letters should be. What should I do? I'm not exactly certain what he's saying, but I think I may be able to show that here. Let me see if I can do that. Let's make this bigger. Okay. So normally when you're typing, you see these letters like this, because that's color is black. There's a possibility that if you were typing those and say they were white, you would just get like a line like that. So if I'm in black like this, that's fine. But if I somehow accidentally set up my default color to say white, and I'm just going to do that right now. Move it over here to the end. And you can see at the very right-hand bottom side, hopefully you can see this in your image, there's a white area down here. So what that does is now when I click on the screen and I start typing, I can't actually see my graphic until and the reason is because it's a white in color. That would be one reason. So the way you fix that basically is you're going to take whatever color you want to change to the default color. The easiest way is just to click on the swatch table, drag it all the way over to the right-hand side where it says fill on the bottom, and drop it in there, and that'll be your new default color. Another reason for it could be that when you have your graphic here and your font size is set to very, very small, you're not going to see anything. It might look like you're typing, but it's so small it might look like a line. Those are the only reasons I can think of. Because again, if it gets super small, you may end up with something that looks like that or very less, and that could be part of the reason. So check your font size, make sure it's reasonable, and then check over here on the right-hand bottom side and make sure where it says fill, there's a color in there, not white or clear or something like that. Okay, thank you, Mark. Let's see. Julian had a question about the banner finishing tab that you were using earlier. I said it could be really useful for us. Our Flexi doesn't have that. Is that a new version of Flexi or a third-party add-on?
No, I'm actually using version 12 of Flexi. So version 10 and I believe 11 did not have that. That was added into version 12, if I'm not mistaken. And it's in the production manager. And what you have to do is put the job on hold, double-click on the job name, and then you'll see the finishing tab over here at the end where you can turn on your grommets and so forth. And it is very, very handy.
What can you do with the banner finishing tool?
Go ahead. Yeah, when I had to stop, I'll tell you, it would have been great for me to have this. I had one job where I had literally 50 banners to do in a very short period of time. So you get in a rush, and without the banner grommet markers like that, you kind of just estimate where the grommets ought to be, and you kind of mess up. Sometimes they don't line up. Well, these will always line up. So you can change the number of grommets. You can either tell it how many by number that you want, or you can actually tell it how many you want by distance. So you can change the distance between the grommets or the number of grommets. You can change it either way. You can also change the color of the grommet, because this is easy to see. It's a red banner, red background, so white is fine. But if you want to, you can actually change it to any color that you want. So if you had a black banner and you wanted to have white, that's fine. But if you had a white banner around the edge, you might want to use black as the color for the banner grommets. The fold line, that's when you turn that on, that actually is, you can change that by inches to describe how much of fold over you want. And the bleed is really the cool thing, because what it does, it allows you to pull some color out of your banner onto that fold line, so that when you fold it over, you don't have that little white edge around the area there. They also have a pretty neat little tool here if you're doing like a gallery wrap where you're doing canvas on a frame. You can see here in the corner, let me zoom up on it, in the corner over here, it's actually, this is for a banner. You wouldn't want that. But for a gallery wrap, you would, so you can just turn that on and off. There are things that you can add, like a stitch line, so you actually can, if you're sewing it, it'll actually show you your stitch line. Or you can put a frame on there. It wouldn't apply in this case, but again, if it was a white background, you need to know where to cut that fold line. So that would give you like a cut line for your banner as well. So it's a very handy tool. I'm trying to remember, Stuart, if we did a webinar on that recently. I think we have something online though that you can look at to see all the features if you'd like.
Yeah, I think we have that on our YouTube page, going into a little more detail there, but that may be something we'd like to cover again in the future.
Sure.
Okay, we've got another question about printing in color. Robert said, does orientation of the file affect color output? If I print right side up and then upside down, does it make sense that the color should be affected?
Well, most times the answer is no. Now, there are certain profiles that you can use that are like for instance, when you choose your profiles many times, let me go to my production manager here. Okay, so the 720 by 1080 in this case, and if you go through here, you're going to see some of these profiles, right? So that actually is indicating the resolution printing one direction or another. Now, if you're flipping it just upside down, one way or the other, that does not make a difference. But if you're changing it, say 90 degrees, there's a possibility to print a little bit different. Most of the printers today have such a small ink drop that it's not going to make much difference. In fact, when you're printing banners, as you see here, and I'm going to do something much larger. Let's do something that's past the size. Let's say I'm printing it like this. This is a really big one now, right? So basically, what happened here was I'm printing this, but I've got to maybe overlap this, and this is not about a banner. This is just a giant print, right? So when the heat setter of the head on the printer is going back and forth, the heat across the material and the drying times can be different for the bottom section than they are for the top. So one of the nice features in Flexi when you're printing this kind of thing is to be able to do what's called a tile flip. Basically what that does is it allows you to change the orientation of the second part of the graphic where you're actually doing that. And I believe I may have to just show it over here. It might be easier to do that. Sorry about that. Might be easier to show here. Okay. Now see, there's a little button here called automatic tile flip. So if I turn that on and I have a really large print, and we'll go ahead and stretch this out again, what you'll see is when it starts to go to the other side, okay, at the top, it's actually rotating it upside down so that if you look at the edge on the right-hand side here, the heat setting and so forth, where you're going to do the overlapping is the same for both prints. The drying times are the same and so forth. So I generally would recommend anyone who's doing tiling, just if you're printing, turn that automatic tile flip on and leave it on. So that kind of answers two questions. One is that's where it allows you to, you flip it at 180 degrees to get the tile flip, and the reason for that is that way the color right where the seam is has a really good chance of matching the two tiles because they're printed on the same side of the vinyl or the banner or whatever it is you're printing.
Okay, Robert says, nice, thanks. So we have another question here from Brandy. She says, if you borrow a low-resolution image that's pixelated, can you change it to a high resolution in Flexi? And I know you've done a lot of training on this topic.
Yeah, I have, haven't I, Stuart? Yeah, you
it's a common question.
This one's 12 by 7, and it happens to be a fairly decent amount of resolution on this, right? But when you resize things, if all you're doing is resizing, so if I go to 36 inches on this, and I don't know if you're seeing it through the webinar system or not, but you can see the lettering is starting to get a little bit of pixelated on the edges there. And the reason is because I've gone now, because I've expanded it 3 times the amount, I have 1/3 the resolution of the print size. It's only 100 right now, which would probably be fine for most circumstances. But if I want more resolution in an image, I can pick the image, and in the bitmap menu, we do have resampling. And what I recommend typically is take one of these numbers, whatever they are. This is about 2,000, and just triple it. If you make this say about 6,000 now, and click OK. What it does is it resamples the image, and it will add additional pixels into it, and hopefully you can see this. It's now much cleaner on the edges. So this is what it was before, and I'll zoom up even more so you can see this a little closer. That's what it was before we resampled, and then this is what it looks like after we resample. And I'm really zoomed up on this. So in actuality, a good way to test this actually is I have this now resized and not resampled, and over on the left-hand side of Flexi, there's a 1-to-1 magnifying glass. What that does is that blows up the image on your monitor to simulate the size that it will actually print. And then once you have that done, when you do your resampling, you'll actually see the effect that you're going to get, which is much cleaner in this particular drawing. So now that being said, if you start out, I always say this to everybody, if somebody sends you a little icon that's, a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch, and they want you to print it, 3 feet, it's not going to do it. That's impossible for anything. But if you have a reasonable size image, I don't know, 12-inch image or something like that, and you want to blow it up 3-4 times, definitely Flexi can handle that, no problem.
Well, it looks like we're just about ready to wrap up here. Were there any more questions that you had today from Mark? Any new processes you're trying, or just anything you'd like to see how to do a little more efficiently? Go ahead and type those in, and we'll get those answered before we close up. Okay, looks like we're good to go. Well, once again, we appreciate you all coming and spending your Valentine's Day with us today. Hope you all have a wonderful rest of the day. And we will, as we said, we are recording this, so we'll be posting this on our YouTube channel. We'll send you all a link as well, so if there's anything you'd like to review or just watch a couple more times, that you'll be free to do so. And thank you all for coming.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.